Is this thing on? Oh, hey, don't adjust your sets, folks. My name is Liz Culley-Sullo. I'm the Director of Public Relations here at BrainBox AI. Yes, the temporary host of the BrainBox AI Podcast, filling in, of course, for Rebecca Hadfield. Now, while the host may have changed, the content is still the same. And I am pleased to introduce our latest podcast episode with Cammeby's International Group, Executive Vice President Avi Schron, where they hold one of the largest real estate portfolios in New York City. We walk with Avi through his legacy, what he's learned in the business, and most importantly, what BrainBox AI has done for 45 Broadway. We hope you enjoy this episode. Today, I have the privilege to sit down with New York real estate royalty. The Executive Vice President at Cammeby's plays a pivotal role in the management, operation, and strategic direction of the company. Passionate about making a positive impact in his role in the company and also in philanthropic endeavors, I am happy to introduce to the podcast, Avi Schron. Avi, thanks.
Thank you. Nice to be here with you.
Thank you and welcome.
I'm looking forward to spending some quality time talking about real estate.
Excellent. And thank you for welcoming us into your beautiful space as well. It's wonderful here. So thank you very much. All right, so let's dive right in. So, Avi, you've been in this real estate world for quite some time. Is it fair to say decades?
Yes.
Okay. So can you walk us down memory lane and maybe share some of your most notable experiences up to date? And if you could also dig back into the annals of your memory and share with us one lesson or turning point that has played a pivotal role in how you view the industry today.
Well, I can't really say there was any one particular turning point because our trajectory has been one of growth. And I'd like to always think of each time we bought a property was an experience. We bought many different multifamily properties. We bought many different office buildings. And I always viewed each acquisition as a learning experience where I was able to glean and take information from the seller, understand how they ran their buildings, what they did, adopt some of their processes and procedures, include that in our management company, and build sort of a repertoire of experiences based on other people's experiences. In fact, something that is memorable is that we were buying a property in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. This goes back into 1994. And I was always curious about how other people ran their properties. I was sitting across the desk from our new property manager who was going to be working for us a week later because we were closing in a weekend. There was a set of rule books behind us the day before computers. And I wanted to say, can I read through some of those? I'm curious to see how you guys operate. She said, I'm sorry, but I'm under non-disclosure with my current employer and I can't share those with you.
Is that right?
So that shows you that there are lots of people still with integrity and they will still, even though she was my new employee a week later, she stood by her values and did not want to share what I wasn't entitled to see. So
interesting.
It's something that was very nice to see.
Oh, wow. That's an interesting experience. And from what I understand as well, like Cammeby's International is a family-owned business and your family-run business starting in the 1960s up until today. So congratulations on the success that you and your family have had these many, many years and wishing you continued success there. Now, I've also heard your voice in the industry as well, and you're not shy to share your opinion about things that, you think could be done better. And at BrainBox AI, we share a similar, opinionated view, if you will. And we felt as though the industry and building management in particular has lagged in its adoption of technology. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on this particular subject. And it's a two-parter question. I know that also you have also been elemental and extremely pivotal in the role of implementing data and technology within this business. And being as forward-thinking and tech-savvy as you are, can you share what guides your decision-making in this regard?
So technology is a lot of fun. It's always new. There's always something cool you could do with it. At some point in time, I came to realize that unless there's a clear ROI, it's not worth it to invest in it. Our customers are very limited in numbers. So for example, if you're in Amazon, you could have millions of customers. And if you just could display something really cool or something really attractive to your customers, you'll get more customers. When you're running a multifamily building with 120 apartments, all you have is 120 customers. When you have an office building with 200,000 square feet, subdivide that into spaces, you'll have a limited number of customers. So you really have to understand how your technology is going to affect your existing customer base, because although you could show something really cool and show it off, it's not going to attract hundreds or millions of people to your space, to your business, to give you that ROI. Mm-hmm. So you have to be really careful in how you spend your money on ROI. And we've seen over the last number of years a lot of prop tech companies that claim to have good technology for multifamily owners or for office buildings that have grown to multiples that were quite high, only to come crashing back down when people realized that there really was not a great business model there, because as soon as cash flow became a little bit tighter due to high interest rates, the property owners cut back and they said it's not worth it. Whereas in other businesses going through the same cycle now, in high interest rates, they're still growing tremendously. NVIDIA and other AI companies who are selling to hundreds and millions of customers, they could continue to grow because technology is something that, to the masses, it works well. When you're limited to a size of your customer base and to a specific space, it really has to have something that's really important and really good to the customers. In fact, we built a new building recently in New Haven, Connecticut, where you have a young college town, and you would think they would be very, very focused on technology. And we decided not to put in smart locks. It was an expense. Smart locks are still relatively new. Mm-hmm. They work on batteries. The batteries run out. You have to replace them. Mm-hmm. It becomes an added expense. We gave out keys, and we leased our apartments quite well without anybody complaining. And we got very good rents, and we still continue to get very good rents. One day, smart locks will be a lot better. Maybe they're going to figure out a way to have a battery life of 5 years or 10 years, or maybe they're going to just hardwire them, and then your cost for operations will go down. The locks will be much more mature, and you won't have to worry about replacing them every 2 or 3 years. That all makes sense. Take a look at some of the publicly traded companies that were focused on that.
Yes.
Their stocks went up, came back down.
Yes.
It doesn't really add that much value to the end user. It's cool to be able to walk over to a phone and unlock your door, but what happens if it doesn't work? It's much easier to put in the key, unlock it. That's it. Interesting.
And how are you taking on this next technological chapter within the Cammeby's commercial space and commercial division? How are you looking at technology for it?
So we're looking at technology for things that are able to, again, get us an ROI. Mm-hmm. We're very excited to be working with BrainBox, giving us a ROI, especially since the investment is low, because it is software that is overlaying an existing hardware installation. Mm-hmm. And we've done similar things within our business itself. DocuSign, for example, mm-hmm. has given us the ability to cut back on the management of paper. That's a huge expense. Printing documents, receiving documents, storing the documents. DocuSign is a great tool to be able to cut back on overall expenses. The same with reporting, switching to Power BI instead of having to run paper reports and then having somebody pour over the data and analyzing it. Having the ability to filter and click on a screen and be able to drill down and get the data you need is something that has saved us a tremendous amount of time, giving us better insights. Years ago, in the early 90s, 1995 it was, we were running an MS-DOS-based property management system. Mm-hmm. It's called MRI. We're still using it today. And all they gave you was paper reports. There was no other way to tap into the database. The database was a proprietary database. There was no data tools like we have today, where you have SQL Server and you could just be able to do a query of the database and pull the data into Excel and slice and dice it the way you want. I sourced a software that was able to take a screen report and pull the data into Excel and then be able to clean it up. I created a series of steps to clean it up and be able to filter and sort and so on, and in order to be able to understand data. So that's how I really wanted to understand what was going on even back then.
Right.
It was hard to do, but we did it, and continuing using data to be able to understand where you are, that's something that is very important. The other thing that's very important is efficiency in your process, like with DocuSign. We built some apps internally to be able to manage our customer service experience and communication all within one place, custom built in order for us to be able to do that better and according to the way we like to do business. So we have a team of programmers to do that.
Wow. So just to go back, because I want to unpack a little bit about your journey through data, because you've given us quite a bit of information, especially, just going back and exporting that file and taking that on yourself to do that, I think is quite interesting. And something that I've learned about you in previous conversations is that you really do enjoy sifting through data, understanding its impact. Would it be safe to say if I called you a self-taught data analyst in that respect?
Well, I wouldn't call myself a data analyst because I don't think I have the skills of a true data analyst. But since I do like to understand the foundation of how things work and what is really the truth, getting good data is something that you just think about and say, okay, what is really going on here? How many? How much? What is it? Why does it happen? And give me the facts.
Absolutely.
And when an employee shows up and says, well, and it's the same like with your kids, right? When they come up from school and they say, everybody in school is doing so-and-so. So you drill down and say, okay, how many kids in your class are doing that? Well, one friend told me, two friends told me, okay. And those one friend, did they ask their mother first? They said no, okay. So it's not the parent, it's the kid who's saying they want to do it. Okay, you got to drill down. So we got to drill down here too. An employee comes and tells you that, oh, we have a big emergency, all the tenants are calling. Okay, how many tenants called?
Yeah.
3. Okay, and what's the issue? They're not happy with their rent bill. Okay, and how often does this happen? Twice. Okay, so you have to understand the facts.
Understandable. And how does data help you to dissect all of these things?
Because,
like, in terms of, obviously data is very important to you, and just in this little exchange here, you've given me so much about how important and meaningful and impactful it is. That dissection, how important is it for you, from, obviously when your kids come home and dissecting their data and understanding exactly what led to those, those playground decisions, if you will, extrapolating that and bringing that to the building. How does that dissection work for you?
Because it helps you really understand what is the truth, what is going on, what is the reality on the ground, what is the reality in your numbers, and you can make a better decision that way. Whether it's understanding what your costs are. For example, a very important question I ask all the time is when we're reviewing financials and the budget for water expense is off, budget for utilities is off. So you have to understand, why is it off? Is it just a budgetary issue because you paid an extra bill this month? Is it because the cost for the product went up? Or is it because your consumption went up? And each of those needs a different understanding. If you're paying a bill in the wrong quarter, what happened? What happened did it get lost? Who lost the bill? Did it get stuck in somebody's drawer and they posted it at the wrong time? Is there a leak in the building? Did something change that caused your consumption to go up? Or if the price went up, what happened to our fixed price contract? How come price went up in the middle of a contract?
Yeah.
Somebody should have realized, oh, they made a mistake. Okay, let's go back and fix it. So every component has to get back to the data to understand what is it and why did it happen, and then you can make a better business decision.
Absolutely. So drilling down on that a little more, and specifically with respect to our relationship and the relationship that BrainBox AI has with Cammeby's data, details and dissection seem to be the biggest things for you in terms of evaluating and making a decision. So how did BrainBox AI resonate with your vision and trajectory in using your data and technology? And from an IT perspective, how did BrainBox AI resonate in that respect for you?
So it resonated, again, because it was a software solution laid over a hardware control system that we had installed previously. And BrainBox was able to provide for us proof that they are actually cutting costs and saving money by proving that our consumption has gone down because we're getting better control over our HVAC systems.
Excellent. So we're going to go to another question just about building management in general. I mean, we've discussed, of course, the way that technology is now, touching pretty much every industry. And of course, real estate industry is not going to be, unturned in this respect. So how are you looking at this era of technology in building management, real estate, strictly from an IT perspective? If I could ask you to put your IT hat on, how are you looking at it from that?
So there are two components. One of them is back office, and then of course this forward-facing to how you interact with your customers. We did a lot of focus on back office efficiency, on paying our bills electronically, electronic payments, receiving payments electronically from our customers, storing our documents, managing how we store our documents, making sure there's good workflow set up so that the employees are doing things which they need to do using their brains and not just doing functions which can be automated. If it's something that can be automated and it's just keystrokes, let the computer do it. It will do it better. Humans make a lot of errors. One of the first things that we had to do was to modify some software because people were making key punch errors, and we had to modify software to stop those key punch errors. If we could get away from key punch errors, that's even better. So let people use their brains in thinking about why, the what, and the where, and let the computers do all of the, as much as possible.
Right.
To do the processing. You can see that that's really the way the world is moving, where most businesses are pushing data entry onto their customers. If you go to a doctor's office, you're not filling out a paper form anymore. You're doing it digitally. You're doing it. Once you do it, it's in. That saves them time. And I think we view the same thing with our vendors, posting bills electronically, and getting our tenants to fill out the applications electronically. So that is pretty much the basic standard across the industry these days. And then internally workflow, just making sure that we're able to communicate with different departments. And like I said, document storage has become a very important part of our workflow. We bought an entire document management system, which is specific for real estate, to make sure that we could manage our leases, our corporate documents, and be able to find it that in a way that's unique for real estate.
Right. And so in a way, you're also, you've alluded to this, but you're leading into automation where it makes sense.
Right.
Of course. Okay. Right. So moving into just a different question here, just about what's happening externally and the global spotlight being shone now on various industries. There is growing media and regulatory attention placed on your industry now from an energy efficiency and sustainability perspective. How is Cammeby navigating this ESG environment, and how do you see the way forward for it too?
Well, there's Local Law 97 in New York City, which we are adopting to, and we're doing the best we can to make sure we're compliant. We're dealing with old buildings, and old buildings were not built for energy efficiency. Some of our buildings were built in the 1940s and 1950s, where there was no thought about energy efficiency at all, and the cost for energy was very, very low, and it was so low that they didn't even think about insulating the buildings. So to go and insulate it now is difficult, but we're doing what we can. Pipe insulation, making sure that our steam systems are working well, and making sure that we are able to comply. Getting back to BrainBox AI, which is but the point of it is that it's an existing system.
Yes.
We're not replacing systems.
Correct.
We're not creating pollution. You're not ripping out old, which works, and replacing it with new, which is of a lower quality. You're just overlaying it, and you're creating a better system. more efficiency with the same comfort. And therefore, it's a great system.
I couldn't have said it better myself. So we're over the hard questions now, Avi. Thank you.
Okay.
So we're going to jump into some rapid fire questions that are fun, super fun.
Okay.
You know, we can relax our shoulders now. But Chris, we're good for 10? Awesome.
By the way, if you want to take it all at my own editorial, you don't have to put that. It's a little bit, maybe it's a little bit too heavy for some people.
I feel like we might need to come back to you, Avi, to have just a conversation just on that, and because I feel like we've got a lot to unpack there. So, and I welcome that conversation. So, you know, whenever you have a moment to share your thoughts and ideas with us,
I
we'll
walk
do it
into
again.
my boiler rooms. I have these beautiful boilers that need no maintenance, and they want us to rip them out and put in all these HVAC systems, which is a huge amount of maintenance. I put in brand new air conditioning systems in my house 15 years ago. I had to rip them out already because they're free on change, they don't last. Thousands, that's crazy. Anyway.
Ripping in place is not always the answer. So, you know, but somehow some regulatory bodies think it is. Okay, so let's go into the rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
Super easy, super quick, off the top of your head. You don't need, no notes needed here. So for our listeners, we're just curious, of course. We ask all of our guests this question, but what is one book that you would recommend? And it could be about anything, but one book that you've read that you would recommend to our...
Good to Great. I forgot who wrote it, but I think it's a great study of different businesses and why they succeed and why they fail.
Interesting. Okay. Share with us your latest tech obsession.
Let's see, where my latest tech obsession is. It's IoT, connected devices. You know, using the internet to control devices and be able to gain access to your lights and to your other device that you want to control, just using the internet.
Okay. Sounds like it. So it sounds like if we walk into your house, it's all automated then. So lights, everything, pretty much. Okay. Same thing in my house. I feel like my little girl, though, will have a problem stepping out because she'll realize that Google doesn't actually control the music. And so she'll have a problem when she gets to, let's say, a coffee shop later on in life. Hey, Google, change the music. It's not going to happen. So, yeah, I think it was one of the pitfalls of automation, but for our children. But at the same time, I still love having the ability to change the lights and everything in my house. So I agree with you there. And I know that you're an avid listener of podcasts. So I'm curious to know what your top 3 podcast recommendations to our listeners and viewers would be. And no pressure, but you might get a few bonus points if you also happen to mention the BrainBox AI podcast as one of them.
Well, okay, the BrainBox AI podcast is up there. The other one I love listening to is TREP, because they provide great data on the real estate industry. Lonnie and his team do a good job. And then the other one I enjoy listening to is Acquired, which is a very
fantastic
podcast, which is all about business, which I think is really, you know, they do a good job explaining how businesses grow, and I think it's very important for anybody in business to understand, you know, how to take a business and grow it and be able to be successful.
Absolutely. And just one more question. What advice would you give to anybody in your industry now who is as tech savvy as you are? What advice would you give to them to navigate what's up ahead?
In the real estate industry, and I think this goes back to what I discussed at the beginning of the podcast, is you have to really know your ROI. And you have to sit down, and before you invest in a technology, you have to be certain that it's going to gain you more revenue or offset your expenses. If it's just something that's cool, then in real estate, I don't think you really need it, because hopefully your real estate itself is selling itself because of its location and the quality of the space that it's providing. If it's going to be that the technology is going to attract them to your space over somebody else's, so then you're lacking something within the building or space or location itself. Real estate is still location, and there are plenty of places that are leasing out even though they don't have cool technology, and even though They may not look as great as the competition in the suburbs, but if you're in the city, you're leasing. If you're in the suburbs, well, you may not lease. So since real estate is a location-based business, if you have a great location, a great property, and is well maintained, and it looks great and feels great, you're going to lease it. The technology is going to be an additive to help you either make some more money on the revenue side. Maybe they'll pay you more rent, but you have to be certain of that. And you have to be certain that it will help expense avoidance. So some of the cool stuff that's coming out may or may not help you. There's a lot of prop tech companies that are selling products, insurance products, this product. It's really not prop tech. It's really you decided that you want to sell another product to your customer. If you want to sell an insurance, that's great. Can you really make a business selling insurance to them? Just because somebody's selling insurance online doesn't make it into a technology company. Amazon was a technology company, but now they're a logistics company that has a lot of bricks and mortar.
Yes.
And they really have to work really hard to move that product from their warehouse into your doorstep as quickly as they can using technology, but it's still a brick and mortar company. Now, I'm sure that Jeff Bezos would disagree with me on that, but at the end of the day, there are other companies which are pure technology companies, Facebook or Twitter, pure technology companies. There's no brick and mortar. It's just purely about delivering a experience of communicating across the world using a platform, whether you're communicating using a Twitter type of system or Facebook. Anyway, getting back to real estate, the point is that you have to know your ROI. So, a company that can help you save on energy, that's great. Company that will, let's see, what are the really great technologies that help save? A lot of the newer door entry systems are really good because it does reduce your operating costs, no more keys, if they're done right, if they're able to continue to be maintained at a low cost. Going back to the example earlier, where maybe your front door needs a good digital system, but maybe your interior locks don't. I'm worried about the interior locks because of the battery life and because of the ability of them to be able to continue to communicate and be able to be relevant in the long run.
Right.
Those locks are expensive. They're $600 a lock. What happens when they need new firmware? What happens when the company goes out of business? Which is another very important point, which I ask all the time to any technology company that comes my way. How long are you in business for? Are you cash flow positive? And if you're not, how much money do you have in the bank? And what's your business plan to be able to maintain through the rough times? It's got a lot tougher to raise money for venture capital firms, and you don't want to go and buy into a technology and change over everything in your building for something that may not exist. For example, let's talk about lighting. You may not want to go ahead and put in a brand new lighting system to control your outdoor lights because you can do it from your phone if that company is not going to be around in 2 years from now. Leave it with the old time clocks. They work fine. So you have to have your super go around once a year and daylight savings time and change it. Okay, but that cost is not that high and it works. So, it's cool to be able to control the outside lights from your phone, but if the company's not going to be in business, it's going to cost you a lot more.
Wow. A wealth of knowledge that you've given us today, Avi. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.